I'm going to take you back to the year 1750. You guys ever heard of Captain James Cook?
Yeah.
You have? What do you know about him?
He's Captain Hook from Peter Pan.
No,
No,
different guy.
definitely not.
No, that guy's
Different
name
guy.
is James Cook.
Yeah, I bring this up because
That's
Just
James.
kidding.
yeah,
That's Hook.
I bring this up because we all just went to Hawaii, right?
Okay.
So Cook, he was this just genius. He goes out to the French and Indian War. He's a young naval officer there, and he just becomes this madman for cartography. So he's like maps the St. Lawrence River. So after he maps it really well, the ships can come in and essentially they just dominate the French at that point. So that helps a ton. So when he comes back, he's a legend. Everyone loves him. So the English are like, we got to get this guy like doing all types of awesome things. So they were like, hey, we're going to set up this expedition for you. We're going to send you out to Tahiti first.
So who's sending him out? Like
The
who?
King George, I think the third.
Okay.
Yeah, King George III sends him out to Tahiti to be like, hey, we want you to study the stars. And they had some Venus thing coming across so we know how far away the sun is from Earth. They're trying to figure out all this stuff. I mean, that didn't go so well, but he puts together this crew to go out there.
Why did they want to like solve that though? Like what
It was
was
curious people at that
that
time.
legit?
A lot of
That's
curiosity.
all it is. Just curiosity.
And it kind of gets people out, like whatever they discover, they can put a flag, an English flag down and like.
Yeah, I think the king's motive was probably more like they love surrounding themselves with like the science and the arts because they're always showing off to their richer neighbors,
Yeah,
right?
and there was always, I mean, everyone's battling for the French, always like the
So
Spanish.
is it like the 1490s we're discovering America? So everybody's like out trying to discover new lands, or
No.
is it like
At this point, this is 1750, so there is new lands that people haven't discovered. That's what so essentially he goes to Tahiti, but what he would do is he like emphasized health on his whole crew. So he wanted everybody healthy to beat scurvy. So he'd give them like sauerkraut and other like healthy options. And if you didn't follow his rules with health, he would flog you. He would beat the crap out of you, and essentially like to keep everyone in line. From Tahiti, he goes down, he charts all of New Zealand, takes him months, and he kind of goes off of like the coast of Australia and charts Australia. I don't think the indigenous people loved him, but like he didn't do anything too crazy. I know like at one point these two, like when they got to Australia, first he almost crashes on the Barrier Reef and then like almost dies there. By the time he gets to the land, these two indigenous people show up. It's like a father and son, and he kind of points his gun at them, and they're like, showing that they run the land, and he shoots at their feet to like scare them away.
I was about to say, so if you run up on these two guys,
He
they
shoots
don't even know what a gun is.
He shoots at their feet, and they keep coming forward. He ends up shooting one of the guys.
I was gonna say,
so he's not
like-
the greatest dude in the world.
But
Yeah.
if you don't know what a gun is, and some guy's pointing
Yeah.
at it, he's like, you're like, he's pointing a stick at me. Like, what is wrong with this guy?
And also,
so you
like-
keep walking.
Yeah,
But after the first couple shots, you might be like, what the heck is going on, right?
yeah. And so he was just an interesting character. Like a lot of his crew, they'd get uber horny, and they were desperate, and so they get to some of these random islands they'd hit, and they would go on their ships and pull out nails because these islanders, they didn't have a ton of iron,
Okay.
and they would just trade nails for
For
sex.
sex?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's pretty wild.
And we've
but
all been there.
we've been there.
Guilty.
Why didn't they just
For
use
sure.
their charm?
I don't
with
think
the
they had a ton.
ladies?
I don't think that language barrier and like I don't know. But I think they probably
Dude.
did some of that.
You
It's
Paul
a
lived an
universal
island.
language.
Paul
Yeah.
lived an island
Yeah, you-
island life.
Yeah,
and
you know the island. You've probably been given nails. At
Well,
some point.
he might not believe in white privilege. He could definitely flash a white privilege card out there, and
Dude, so he goes
Yeah,
down.
If there ever was white privilege, it is when you're on an island because
for sure.
you're like one, like you're
Yeah,
maybe four of you exist on the whole island, and so you're like this
Yeah.
prized possession. You're like a unicorn.
Yeah.
yeah. This guy was maybe viewed as a unicorn, but he goes down to he charts Australia, and like even the French were like, this guy's amazing. We've been here, but like no one does maps like Captain Cook. So the English are just jacked. They're pumped. They're like, hey, we want you to find this continent. There's this continent that like the Romans had talked about. It's this like mythical continent. It's like really far south. So he heads out south and essentially gets to like Antarctica and is like, hey, this is as far south as anyone's been. There's nothing out here. It's all ice. And he comes back, and eventually they're like, hey, we want you to go on another mission. We want you to find the Northwest Passage. So He takes off with the ship.
Hold on. So was it called the Northwest Passage at
At
that
the time, I think that's what they called
Well,
it. They
did
thought
he find it? If
I
they've already named it, somebody's already found it.
yeah,
no.
I think they have an idea of it. So like he goes up like I think this route this is where on his way to this one he runs into Hawaiian
So
Islands.
this is like somewhat legendary as well, and they
Yeah,
want him to
very
actually
much.
map
It's very
it.
much not charted, right?
Yeah, it's not charted.
Yeah.
I mean, and this whole time while he's going up there, he's charting everything like
Dude, I think
awesome. He's
you
like he's
taught
like
me
just
something,
awesome
I
with
think.
maps.
That's why they call it uncharted waters.
There you go.
Is that why?
I don't know.
Well, they call it chartography.
Yeah,
Just kidding. No,
they
it's
told-
cartography. Dude. Gotcha.
Anyways, he's the first European to hit the Hawaiian Islands, and he stops there on his way. He goes up to the Bering Strait and goes up through like Siberia and just hits ice and is like, hey, we can't make it up through here either. So he comes back down. He charts all of like the Canadian coast. He's like awesome at that. And he gets back to Hawaii, and I think one of the natives like steals his boat. And so he's like, hey, to get my boat back, I'm going to take your king and hold him hostage. And they're done with the Europeans at this point, and they just kick the shit out of him. They seriously,
who does the Canadians?
Hawaiians.
The Hawaiians.
This is in
Hawaiians do.
Hawaii.
Okay.
The Hawaiians they kill him. They just kill him. So he in Kona, we were just in Kona.
but he
He
shows
died
up.
in Kona.
But he shows up. They sneak onto his boat and like take off.
Well,
to
they were just
sea,
being
or,
funny
like-
tricksters. You know, they're just like, hey,
They were
let's-
done at that point. They're like, dude, we're done with these Europeans.
Yeah.
They didn't like him,
Well, weren't
so they
weren't
killed
the
him.
Hawaiians always done with everybody? Like, pretty much, like ready to go to war when people started.
I mean,
arriving?
they had been like unscathed for years. I mean,
Yeah.
that was until like the 1750s, and he apparently is like the first Europe. I mean, they all probably claim that, but
Yeah,
he was probably the first European to really like chart and mark down Hawaii.
but it didn't go well for him.
No, he
Didn't
got
end
killed.
well, yeah.
they're done.
But he could have been, you know, who knows? We'll never
So that's
know.
the end of it.
Yeah.
I'm actually curious how you find out. Like, if it's the 1750s, okay, I guess, or what year are we in by the time he dies?
like 1760 something,
Okay,
1770.
they kill him in Hawaii. How do you ever find out that that's what happened to him?
I think they treated after they killed him. I think they know he's like a big time guy, and I know they treated his body well after he was dead. Like I think they gave like him a ceremony and things. Like it wasn't like this like throw him in the gutter. I think they know
But
like
then what? Did they like post on their Instagram?
yeah, just got
Hey,
back.
France, we
It just
killed
got back.
your
Yeah.
dude.
Yeah, no,
Oh,
this
it
was the
wasn't France,
English.
England.
Dude, this
Oh,
is
what?
English.
You got to pay attention, dude.
Dude,
This is the
the
English.
story got wild.
Yeah.
Cook's
But
not,
right there in
Cook
Kona-
is not a
right
French
there in Kona
name.
where we were staying is where he had essentially been killed.
Yeah, I'm still curious how they found that out.
But like even maps today are like just because of him. Like he was the man.
But
Yeah.
like, are you saying they like gave the shit back to some of his men and then they went back to England?
sure
that
that's
also
what
could have happened
Yeah.
too,
And they were
right?
like, "Where's Cook?"
They were trying to leave. I know at that point like it was like this big kind of brawl and like guys were on ships like trying to take off and he was trying to get to his ship and as he was trying to escape they murdered him.
Can you
know how
imagine? Can you?
I
Ma-
like? Oh, good. Go
I was
ahead.
gonna say, can you imagine being one of those dudes and you're like you've just left Captain Cook and you're sailing away from Hawaii and you hear this guy you've been there for so long and that next morning you go to do your squats and your sit-ups and your push-ups and it's like I'm not gonna get beat if I don't
Yeah,
do
it'd be,
these
yeah,
things,
it'd
you know?
probably be refreshing.
It'd
It's
be
like, I
very
don't have to
refreshing.
like eat sauerkraut.
I bet you there was like some tears of like joy as they slowly slipped
But
into
like that Antarctica trip, no one died. Like that was unheard of at the time. People were dying. Like you'd lose like half of your men on some of these voyages. These are like, I mean, he's gone for years.
Yeah, did they just eat fish? Like these guys that did this, like Columbus and some like
I don't know
they
what
just
Columbus
eat
did.
Fish out of the sea. every day,
No,
or
no, I
what?
think they dried probably some meats. I don't think they're catching a lot of fish in the open ocean. I don't think that's super easy. I mean, maybe when they're getting to some destinations, like they're scaling or they're going around some coasts, they're able to find fish. But fish isn't like, I mean, I don't think fish is like a plentiful resource when you're in the open ocean.
Hey, this is why we
What
go
about a
to
dolphin or a shark or something?
I mean, you got to bait those
So it
buggers.
is literally if they were going to
a
be gone for
dolphin.
years,
A
If you
dolphin?
fish for a dolphin, can you imagine? I think I got
Dude,
something on the line.
Those guys
It's a
back
dolphin.
then, dude. Those guys back then were shooting Moby Dicks and stuff.
Yeah, no, the whole whaling community is hardcore.
Yeah,
You,
but
you would have been a great whaler.
you would have been a
for
great
sure.
whaler.
Going to these little villages and just
I would've
killing
died
whales
so-
for oil.
You're talking about those people that died. I would have been one of the first to
Yeah,
die.
I don't think
for
you would have
sure.
survived very long. You
No.
would have been flogged by Captain Cook for sure because you'd want to eat something crappy. You just drink the whole
Yes,
time.
you'd
Yeah.
be like
he's
sauerkraut
like,
only.
"Sorry,
and
I
I'd
gotta
be breaking
flog
into
you."
whatever there was, the M&Ms or something.
He'd flog you a lot because you'd be going out and you'd have nails like crazy because you'd be ready. That's your ammunition. So you knew.
Why-
He'd be playing cards
Why
for nails
is
there.
your room full of nails?